When I refer to Ancistrus, I just mean Plecos that are vegetarians and have bushy growth on their faces. Ancistrus cirrhosus is the most common species in the hobby, having many colorful morphs, such as brown, albino, super red, lemon blue-eyed, and green dragon. More of these species are wild-caught too, and there's more morphs selectively bred in Germany and other parts of the world. These morphs usually have plain colors, but amazing patterns on them. They are usually collected and then bred in the hobby. Many species of Ancistrus could include Ancistrus Wabenmuster, Rio Paraguay, L159 Luzia, L519 Rio Itenez, or Rio Paraguay. All these are Ancistrus species, but they usually originate from wild points that have been in the hobby. In this whole video, I'll be referring the Plecos that are guided in breeding them as Ancistrus. Ancistrus is usually marked as a vegetarian, so they are a very good choice for cleaning out aquariums. However, spawning them will require other dietary things, such as protein, to develop the eggs. I have had experiences breeding things such as Ancistrus cirrhosus, such as green dragon, super red, or others. And I've also spawned L519 and the Ancistrus Wabenmuster. All these species pretty much breed the same, as they're all part of the Ancistrus genus. However, some of them have fewer eggs or some sort of limitations to others that make them harder to spawn. I have learned many of these techniques from friends that I've met in the fish club or the fish industry. Some of these tips are by my experience only, and I would not take this video as your only source to breeding the Ancistrus. Ancistrus, or armored catfish with bushy noses, always, mainly, originate from South America. Some of these more rarer, quote-unquote rare species are usually wild-caught or an L number Ancistrus. The more common Ancistrus, again, is Ancistrus cirrhosus, having many colorful morphs and will produce way more eggs than other quote-unquote Ancistrus. Ancistrus are not particularly hard to breed and will probably breed pretty easy if you have both sexes and good feeding conditions. To tell the identity of a sex from a sex is to look at the bristles. It might be plain and simple, but the males will have bristles that go up its nostrils all the way, and the females will have close to none or in the side of the lip. That's usually the most accurate way to tell. If you're still unsure, you can look at the belly shape. The female will have more of a rounded belly and then a V shape coming to the vent. The male will have a streamlined belly and the belly will not protrude out. When spawning Ancistrus, you need to get a pair, a trio, or a reverse trio. Any of the following would theoretically work, but I recommend a trio, 2 females, 1 male, or a pair. To make them spawn, simply put them in a 10-gallon tank with a cave. The cave will act as a spawning site. How these fish breed is the male will lure the female in, trap her inside, and then she will lay the eggs inside. Then the male will guard the entrance of the cave, fanning the eggs until they hatch. To make this effect happen, you can do a couple things to encourage the spawning behavior. Things such as conditioning and water changes. When it comes to conditioning, it just means to get your fish ready, full of eggs, and ready to spawn. To do that, I would change the diet to a protein-heavy feeding, still including veggies. For example, I feed my adults Repashy. I use a mix of soylent green, for the veggies, and then Bottom Scratcher, which is technically a Hype Ancistrus meat-eating mixed, only used specifically for Hype Ancistrus fish. Sometimes you can break the rules though with the bushy nose. Then, once the female is nice and fat like this, I would get her ready by doing a cold water change. Sooner or later, the male will trap her in there and there will be fry. Another way you can feed your parents to make them to breed, you should feed them adult brine shrimp. Plecos usually like a smaller cave so that they can trap the female in there easier with less effort. A 1.5D will work. The male has been fanning for a couple days and the eggs have hatched. You take a look in the cave and you see little tiny pleco fries in there. Simple. You take the cave out of the tank, put into a container, and gently flush out the fry. I do this for many reasons. I like to raise the fry out separately so that I make sure they get enough food. And usually when you leave them with the parents, they usually don't really survive. The parents already take out most of the competition of the food, so putting fry in there would be catastrophic. Also, the fry has a yolk sac they need to absorb when they come out, and they won't take any food until all the yolk sac has been absorbed and they have been developed into a dark pleco. To make that with ease, I usually put them in a breeder box or put them in a 5.5 to develop. However, some parents usually kick out their eggs. Most dads should take care of their eggs, but there is that one nasty male that keeps kicking out his eggs. In that case, I would put them in an egg tumbler. I have found that generic store-bought brand egg tumblers will end up fungusing if the male kicks them out day one. The solution to that is when you see fungus, I will remove them into a 5.5, put them in with the air stone and some antifungal. The fungus on those specific eggs will stop at those eggs and those will turn milk white. But the rest will still into the pleco fry. I found the most effective way to do it, even though it's quite messy, is just to use methylene blue. Methylene blue is a very powerful antifungal that will stop any fungus growth immediately. And all the other eggs surrounding the fungus-stop eggs, as you can see, will still develop into pleco fry. You can tell if an egg is fertile by day 3 or 4, once little tiny dots of eyes are developing on the eggs. The ones that are fungus-stop will turn milk white or be underdeveloped. After this, my friend told me they should start in a 5.5. I've tried them in bigger tanks, but I've always ended up with losses. This makes sure, for the first month, the plecos will have food always in their bellies. When it comes to growing out your fry fast, all I do is use canned green beans. They are an easy substitute for 99 cents about at my local supermarket. I get them. However, these green beans will have little seeds in the middle. I will have to remove those seeds manually. These seeds have tons of nutrition in them, but the plecos usually go in there and get their head stuck and end up suffocating. So I usually take out those seeds in the middle and only feed the fleshy part. When feeding my green beans, I prefer to get the French cut version to avoid removing most of the seeds. But in this case, these ones were for clearance, so I got them and had to remove the seeds manually. After removing all the seeds, I will sift them again, rinse them off, and then plop them in the tank. You can see these are already pre-seeded out and have been rinsed in just normal tap water. From that point, what I will do is take my hand and just drop a couple in the tanks. Plain and simple. The young pleco fry will also get somewhat of the same diet as the adults, but more veggies. Another common food I feed all my fry is repashy. Repashy, again, is a very nutritious food that I feed to the adults also. But the babies also love it, and that will train them for later foods. For repashy, for the fry, I tend to shy away from the protein and feed more of a vegetarian based diet. Other common foods I will feed my plecos are cucumber, spinach, greens, collard greens, or any carrots if possible. Varying their diet will have a greater chance of non bloated fish and more healthy fish. Once in a while, I'll throw in there an algae wafer. But just algae wafers to grow your fish is not going to be enough. I try to feed repashy once a week and some sort of veggie every other week. Most of their diet, again, is always going to be repashy or some sort of more nutrient-dense food than your classic pellets. These plecos have been going at these green beans, as you can see. When one of them gets a hold and knows its food, the rest will come and a mob will follow. Wabenmuster fry developed the honeycomb pattern very early in their lifetime. When they're about almost there to an inch, you can already see some honeycomb. Longfin superreds also grow slow, as most of the food developed will go into growing those long flowy fins. That's why I tend to avoid some long fin patterns. Fish, such as the longfin superreds or green dragon plecos Ancistrus, will require sorting. These are more common, such as Ancistrus cirrhosus. All Ancistrus, even if people don't believe it, will need some sort of culling, because there'll always be some ugly ones. With the Wabenmusters, the honeycomb pattern might not show on some of them, and they'll look like a poorly spotted brown fish. So it's important to cull some of the fish to keep the line nice and pure. You can see some green dragons here. Green dragons are a mutation in the hobby caused by breeding many fish together. These fish will have no spotting whatsoever and will have a nice emerald green color. Again, most talented breeders that I've met always try to sort out the bad looking Ancistrus species they are breeding for bad finnage. Let's go see in the fish room.
So when breeding green dragons, you really got to sort out that green color on the green dragon. And you can see most of these fish are a wonderful example of the green dragon. See on that camera how green that is? Decent amount of them are green. Because some green dragons have charcoal and they're just a poorly colored fish. Like that one, for example, is good. That one in the little corner. And mostly the batch I got are pretty much true. The rest pretty similar to this green dragon, but you can really see the colors.
In later adulthood stages, you should try to vary the diet more and bring in more protein as they grow to an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and will get to sexual maturity. Then you can repeat the cycle. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video of me talking about Ancistrus plecos. These fish are fascinating creatures, and you can find many morphs and many wild caught things. People, again, commonly only know of Ancistrus cirrhosus, but many experienced breeders have found other morphs, such as egg spot, Wabenmuster, Luzia, Rio toncantins, and all the starlight variations, such as peppermint and others. All of these will have bristles on their face. So, they are ancestors, but they breed the same. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making it and filming it. See you in the next one. Goodbye.